Hi, my name's Rob Goddard, and I'm joined today by Tanya Franks. Tanya,
Hello, Rob.
hi, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be with you today.
Yeah, snap. And we had a catch up a couple of weeks ago, and it was really, interesting conversation.
It was. Well, we had a good long catch up, actually, didn't we? We hadn't spoken for a little while, so we had much to talk about.
Oh yeah, very much so. And there was a particular thing that you shared with me that I think would be very helpful for the audience. Mm-hmm. And people will know you from your work over the years in stage, in film, and in TV. And you describe yourself as an actress, so it's a nice umbrella statement in all of those.
Yes, dominantly TV for the last 20 years. So
an actress plus.
Yes. An actress plus television.
Yeah, exactly. But we're not here to talk about your career.
Okay.
We're here to talk about something that's a real passion of yours and has been for a few years now, which is the whole topic and subject of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
So there's probably a lot of people watching this that, very much like me, have heard the term but really don't know much about it. So the purpose of this chat really is for you to share what you've learned so far. Mm-hmm. And basically the first place to start really is, what is Alzheimer's?
Well, Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain, and it comes under the umbrella of dementia. However, it is the dominant, it's the most diagnosed version of dementia. There are different diseases as well that connected with dementia, but that is the foremost one. And at this current time now, more than 850,000 people in this country have dementia and have Alzheimer's. And it's now the biggest killer in this country.
And is that a growing? I mean, that's a substantial.
That is a growing number. Yeah, it's a growing number. And also not forgetting that it isn't just the person, of course, that has the disease. It also affects the family members, because there will always predominantly be a carer alongside that person. So it really takes over that person's life as well. And it's a very difficult disease, because it isn't in the same as many other diseases where you can see it on the outside, or that, you may not necessarily think that even somebody looks particularly unwell, but there's a lot that's happening on the inside. And it does mean that the brain is slowly but surely degenerating.
And how much do we know in the medical profession? How much do we know about this condition?
It was first diagnosed in 1906.
Wow, right. Okay.
And by Alois Alzheimer. And I mean, it's, so here we are, 2021, 115 years later, and still no cure. So my experience with it is that my stepfather was diagnosed with it in 2013. And for some people, it can progress very quickly. For some people, it can progress over a longer period of time. And very often it can, somebody's lifespan can be in the region of maybe 3 to 9 years on average, but it can go on longer than that. It can go on for many years. So it's, and there's more diagnoses within women than there are in men.
Is there?
Yeah. But on saying that, it is, there are still a lot of men with it, but there is a slightly higher percentage of women, and it does tend to progress faster in women. So we've been living with it in my family now since 2013, as I say. And the progression of my stepfather, Derek, has been, I would say, relatively slow over that period. So although we have seen a progression, it is taking a slower progress than maybe some other people's dementia or Alzheimer's. And really, over the last couple of years, since 2019, since the end of 2018, I've been raising money for Alzheimer's. I ran the marathon in 2019.
Oh, gracious.
And that was partly, that was prompted actually by because I'm in the show EastEnders, and so Barbara Windsor was obviously a co-star of that show, and her and her husband had made it public that she had Alzheimer's, and it made a big difference to the awareness of the disease. And they were very brave in the way they spoke.
Extremely.
And sadly, Barbara passed just before Christmas. And so over the last couple of years, I'd spent a lot of time with her, and obviously with my stepfather as well. And when we ran the marathon, we ran it to raise money for Alzheimer's, because Barbara had asked for us to maybe do it as a group. And so a group of us did it from the show, from EastEnders. And
fantastic.
Yeah, and we ran as Barbara's Revolutionaries, which was for the dementia. It was for the dementia revolution. And the awareness was so much more, it blossomed, in fact, the awareness from that time. And it meant that the conversation became a lot more open. A lot of people started feeling that they could now speak about Alzheimer's and dementia in an open fashion, and their families were very grateful for that effect. And of course, where we are now is that, I'm a big supporter of Alzheimer's Research UK, and they work with the Dementia Research Institute, which is who they raise money for dominantly. And I'm very aware that we have been waiting over 100 years for a cure for this disease.
Is it curable, Tanya?
No, it isn't. Right. At this moment, it isn't curable. So when you're diagnosed, you can take medication that might slow the process down, but it isn't curable.
Can one extend one's life? Are there things that someone can do?
Well, I mean, there are certain things that we are looking at the moment, that I'm particularly interested in at the moment, but that research is, scientific research is looking at the moment, and that is to do with diet, exercise, of course, keeping the brain exercised. I know that with my stepfather, we tend to keep hold of talents that he has and skills that he has as much as we possibly can. So he's a beautiful pianist, and he carries on playing the piano, even though some days he can't actually always remember where the piano is. So, but he will sit down at it, and some days he will play it beautifully, and other days he will just stumble over it, So it's a changeable disease like that. You never really quite know what's going to happen that next day. But it's a cruel disease in the way that it strips somebody of their personality and everything that they were. And so apart from, I think with many diseases, it can diminish one's body physically with many diseases, but for a disease to actually take away your personality, your memories, that, everything seems pretty harsh. And
it's inside your head, inside your brain.
It's inside your brain.
Visible.
So it isn't visible. But because of the brain degenerating, it does mean that the body does start to be affected. So therefore there will be physical decline over that period of time as well, because the messages are not being passed from the brain through to the parts of the body to work in the way that they should.
I was really interested in what you said a moment ago about diets. So are there foods that people can eat, take and consume that actually help?
Well, I mean, at the moment, it's very much the general view of, obviously, eat healthily, eat your fruit and vegetables, eat your proteins, eat your have a good balanced diet. Carbohydrates, protein is great for the brain. And exercise is good, of course, and also exercise that challenges the brain, challenges both sides of the brain. So, recently I was hearing about tennis and ping pong ball, not ping pong ball, but tennis and ping pong, so that because what it means is both sides of the brain are having to work together, but having to concentrate with each other.
So it's like these mental puzzles like Sudoku and
so
exercising the brain?
Yeah, those kind of things are supposed to be good. Crosswords. They say that learning a language, all these things that exercise our brain. But one of the things that I'm dominantly focused on at the moment is looking at prevention, because I honestly believe that what we're not doing at the moment is we are waiting for a cure, but we don't have, the average person in the street doesn't have enough of a guideline to say what you need to do. For me, it's not just enough just to say, eat your fruit and veg and get some exercise. What exercise specifically? How much exercise? Specifically what foods? How much of those foods? Just skills that perhaps and lifestyle changes that we can make much earlier in our life, because dementia and Alzheimer's, when it's at its point of diagnosis, will have probably been sitting in your brain for about 20 something years.
Wow, really? That long?
It gets to the point of diagnosis.
Good gracious.
So this is something that we should be learning to prevent early in our life, because what we want to do is take down the risk of it. And not all of us will have it. But with a growing number of 850,000 plus, and in the next few years, we're talking about it going to over 1 million. That's, it is a dominant disease now that needs to be, I believe, addressed in a similar way that we did with cancer, when people started looking at their lifestyle, looking at smoking, looking at the foods we eat, looking at, I think we need to put Alzheimer's into that mainstream topic of health now, because the brain affects every part of the body.
Yeah. And there's this misconception that Alzheimer's, dementia more generally, happens as one gets old. But actually what you're saying is that it can start many, many years before.
Yes,
younger age.
And although that's how we have perceived it to be, that it's, an old age disease.
Yes.
But that isn't true. People can be diagnosed in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. There's cases of children having been diagnosed with it. So this is something that, although it's more common to be diagnosed with it at a later age, it doesn't mean to say that that is the case. A friend of mine at the moment, her sister was diagnosed in her 40s with it, and she's now in her 50s, and her progression is deep now. So she, that particular friend has her sister and her mother with it.
No.
So it's tough, and also as well, we have a social care issue here, where, of course, governmentally at the moment, it's still not being addressed from a social care point of view. So therefore, we need to pull it in line and recognise that this isn't just mental health. This is a physical disease in the same as any other disease. And I think what happens with people is that we fear that we're going to get it, because we feel that once we have, that's it. And actually, the fact of the matter is, it isn't. That's it. People are living with the condition, and your life can still maintain a certain degree of who and what you are. It just will in time take its toll. However, I do think that we really need to start looking at the prevention, and that's why I've started a platform called Elimsha, which is Eliminate Dementia Through Prevention. And that is very much for me to really start researching now what we as the general public need to do to be given the choice to address the health of our brains for our life. So, I would just think it would be fantastic. Imagine if we could take to medical specialists, to GPs, something where they could roll out a guideline to people, and literally if you went, you might go to see them for another reason, but the doctor says, can I just ask, what are you doing for your brain health? And actually, and you might say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing for my brain health, actually, I haven't thought about it. And they could say, look at this, just please, take a look at this, and I would love to get it that much into the mainstream that it becomes part of our commonplace. Particularly, I think we need to be focusing on teens, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, earlier in your life, for you to start really thinking about how this may address your future.
And Elimsha is a not-for-profit entity?
Yeah, Elimsha is a not-for-profit organisation that I've founded, and it really is so that I can speak to scientists, specialists, doctors, people that work in different fields, looking at nutrition, looking at exercise, looking at, anywhere where there's a potential of prevention. And because I do believe that if let's just say they find a cure, which would be amazing. And we know that it's they are talking about it being nearer and nearer. And the aim is to find a cure by 2025, I believe.
Right.
But I mean, imagine if we could eliminate it by prevention meeting a cure as well. So we're not just waiting to the point of being diagnosed to do something about it, but actually being able to eliminate the risk or prevent the risk of getting it.
So a dual-pronged attack, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so you're looking for people within the medical field, the nutritionists. Is there any other groups of people that you would welcome contact for that would help you?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is anybody that has a very specialised knowledge of the brain, and in that particular area, particularly dementia and Alzheimer's, and also I'd love to hear from doctors how they feel it. Whether they feel that the brain is focused on enough. Also, if people want to invest in the platform, in Elimsha, because obviously the more research that I can push through and, perhaps encourage literature for or anything like that, the better. I would like to speak to universities about trials. I would like to, speak alongside practitioners and specialists that may be able to oversee those. I would really like to push the boundaries of what are we doing to research the prevention.
I think it's a marvelous thing, Tanya. And when we chatted about it the other week, it just hit me between the eyes, really. It's just, it's a massive undertaking. And but I think your vision, your passion just shines through. So there's a whole range of people with resources, knowledge, expertise. The odd sponsor or two wouldn't come amiss, would it?
That'd be extremely welcomed with open arms. And actually, the best thing to do is if anybody that is interested, then please go to elimsha.com, and that is ELIMTIA.com. So ELIMTIA.com, elimsha.com. And on that, you can put in your name, your contact details, and if you are interested in investing or becoming a sponsor or donating, then please just leave a message and we will come back to you.
Brilliant. And we'll leave that link in the comments box as well.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate this.
No, I think it's a marvelous thing, which is why I wanted to get the conversation going or be part of that conversation, really, because it may not affect us personally as we get older.
Yeah,
but it probably will indirectly, but it probably will with someone in our family, our closest, the people, our loved ones.
I think most people now are finding that they do at least know somebody with dementia, even if they don't have it in their own family.
Yeah.
So
appreciate the time. Really good to chat with you, as always.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye. Bye.